Welcome to the More Than Just a Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Lil Suprenant MD. I'm a life coach for physicians, a practicing hospitalist, a wife, a mom of 2 boys, a reader, a dancer, a dolphin enthusiast, and all the things. Just like me, you're more than just a doctor, and that's what we're going to talk about each week. Doctor stuff, regular life stuff, and all the things that make life rich and interesting. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to welcome my friend, Dr. Judith Borger, here for my second ever podcast interview, my first with a physician. And I'm really excited, and this is very special to me. She's a good friend. So Dr. Borger, her intro is so long because her life is so interesting. So she's a mom of 3 beautiful kids. She's a wife. She's a practicing academic pediatric ER doctor. She owns 2 active, successful businesses. One is Concierge Medical Arts in Fayetteville, which is a full-service, non-surgical medical aesthetics practice, like everything you could possibly want. And she's an expert, which is her second business, The Aesthetic Doctor, which encompasses her podcast, The Aesthetic Doctor, which you should check out. She also teaches other physicians and practitioners injections, lasers. She's a national speaker on aesthetic topics, and she coaches physicians and other practitioners on life, business, and building both an aesthetic practice and a life. You've actually got a lot more, but I'm going to leave it at there for now.
Well, thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here. I love the spaces you create in all sort of aspects of your business of life, and I'm so honored to be part of it. Thank you.
So for our listeners, Jude and I could talk for hours about physician topics that are of interest. But she sent me a text. We were in a conversation a few weeks ago and brought up the idea of leading the charge to sort of show other women physicians that it's possible that you can have it all. And so I thought that will be the main theme of our conversation today. And then I also, both for our listeners and selfishly, I've actually never heard the story of the beginning of the aesthetic practice.
Is that the story you want to hear first?
That is the story I want to hear first.
Okay, yeah, we'll do the chronological thing.
I know midpoint to here, but I'm like, I never heard how you got into it and how it got started. And so I'm super curious.
Yeah, so I think there's sort of a little bit of a journey to that too, because when you were going through medical school, if you were one of those people that always knew what they wanted to do, and I did not, right? And so I really had this interest at the time in dermatology, among many other things. And I know you have a lot of physician listeners, so I don't have to explain rotations, but I did an elective rotation very early on in dermatology. And it was super freaking boring. It was like this guy dermatologist that I follow around, and he was really dry. And it was like 60 patients a day. And it was like rash prescription, rash prescription, rash prescription. I was like, oh my God, dermatology is off the table, right?
Right.
And then I kind of learned more about cosmetic dermatology. I actually did a rotation with a physician that's not core, but that has a successful med spa. And I just loved the atmosphere and the transformation and her. So I kind of tucked that away in there. And I always had an interest in it. So I kept reading. I kept I was drawn to those lectures. I was drawn to that. And so, you go through residency and fellowship and you start practice. And I think when you start practice, the first 5 years, you learn as much in practice as you did in residency, maybe even more.
Right.
And so, then I found myself at this point in life where I think that sort of early mid-age unfulfillment came in a little bit, that suddenly your job is like automation and there was really not much career progression. And I was really starting to think what else, and this idea of doing aesthetics and doing private practice had sort of bubbled up over and over. And so I did it because one of the things that I realized I was missing in my emergency medicine practice were really, number one, this idea of connecting with patients, because meaning like having a long-term connection with your patients. You know, the sicker the patients, like the less they remember you. You know, you can save lives and feel amazing about that. And, you know, the patient whose lives you save is not ever going to remember you, not going to come back. A lot of times you don't even get follow-up. So I really love the idea of having a more longitudinal practice, and that has been phenomenal. I love my patients, and you know, some of them have been with me since the beginning, and like you get to know them, and it's great. Sort of like we love having a long-term coaching relationship. You get to know your patients and you get to see them, and it's just wonderful. And then really also the right side of my brain wanted something to do. You know, emergency medicine is very actually like protocol based. So I just love that idea of being able to do something in the realm of creativity and beauty. And so those together really made me, you know, decide to do it. Initially, it was more of like a fun hobby, and then it became like a hobby business. And I hope that if anybody listens and they have a hobby business, it's totally possible at any point in time to dial it all up on the hobby business. You just pour on, you know, pour open the spout and it comes back in. And then so for the last probably 4 or 5 years, it's been a real business, and it's been a business that I've created, that I've loved, that's hugely successful. But that's really how I got started, and I still love it. I mean, I love my patients, I love the creativity, and I love the creativity of running a business and the creativity of entrepreneurship, which is also why I coach a lot of entrepreneurs. So I am so happy I have my practice, and you and I have talked a lot about it, how for me it's just such a space that I've created that I'm absolutely in love with.
It's sort of one of the words that comes to me about your aesthetic practice in the best way. It's like this playful space. You get to, of course, be an expert and do the medical stuff, but it's also this, you know, playful, creative space of what do you want to do with your time, you know, instead of like, oh, this has to be done like PTR and hospitalist, you know, those things just have to be done. But the aesthetic business is so much more, you can really focus and direct. And that's one of the things that I always get from you, is this like playful creativity.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I love, and I don't mean, obviously we don't mean playful in the sense that we're callous with what we're doing or not taking it seriously, but you're right. There's a lot of space for exploration and bringing in nurse services and, you know, working on growth and working on this. And also, you know, the other thing that I've really become to love is actually being an entrepreneur, and being able to employ other women and being able to be the employer that I want to be. So that has actually been super fulfilling too, that, you know, I employ, like at this point, I think it's 6 women, and I get to be exactly who I want to be as the employer. And that's actually been surprisingly very rewarding for me as well.
That is awesome. Wow, 6 employees. I did not realize you'd gotten that big. That is fantastic. And just one little example of the like playful creativity I'm talking about. You had an event sometime in the last few months. You guys did yoga in your space, and I think you did some injections at the same time or did something aesthetic. I'm like, that is so much fun.
Yes, it is definitely fun. And yeah, you're right. And I think it's a thing we've talked about too, is to keep it in that space of fun and joy, because I think patients especially feel that too when they come into a space, right? When the energy of a space is just full of high vibration and uplifting, and you know, the person that sees you is actually really glad to see you and is really here to serve you, versus like, you know, another burnt out doc who has traded now their internal medicine career for you being their six Botox of the day, and they're just like, oh, let's get through this. So I think it's also an energy I want to tap into and that I want to continue to cultivate.
Yes, I totally sense that. That's a good way to put about your aesthetic business. Like, I totally sense that. And always so joyful. Like, that's a consistent feeling that you project about the business and your
Oh, it's my
client,
happy space. I mean, my
and
space is
learning,
my happy
always
space.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my happy space. And you're right. I think when you say about the energy of exploration, I think it's also the energy of growth.
Mhm.
And, you and I have talked about that. I'm hugely into growth as like a core value.
Right. Okay, now just a little practical question about the origin of concierge medical arts. Like, where did you physically start, and like, what was your beginning? Like, did you offer, what did you offer in the beginning when you were a fledgling entrepreneur?
Yes, and that I coach a lot of entrepreneurs of all stages, and I'm happy to always talk to anybody who's considering it because I started small. I really, as I said, when it was like a hobby business, that does not mean it did not have the right legal structure. It just meant in terms of the energy I was putting in and all of that stuff. It was that thing where I was like injecting those people that I knew, and
Mhm.
it was like a fun little side gig. And so initially I did do some mobile services. I did a lot of Botox parties. I rented a room from a salon and spa. So I think, if somebody wants to start small, it's a good idea to, just rent some space, whether that is, let's say, a doc that maybe might be out of their office a day in the OR, or, you want to have one of those salon suites, or as I said, in some very nice salon spas, whatever, wellness facilities, you might fit in really, really well. And that's really where I started. I started small, and that's the other thing, is that I'm really proud of what I've built from nothing, because I did not start with $1 million or anything like that. I started with really nothing and having to, maintain my income level to support my family. And so I'm really proud of the fact that I've built this very successful, thriving, valuable practice, really from the beginnings of, a dream.
Right. I love it. And I happen to know that you are in the process of expanding again. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what's coming.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the next step for me is we're renovating a historic building, and I am so excited because again, we're gonna get to give this like rundown historic space life, and also sort of to restore it to all its glory and beauty, or maybe like the 2024 vision of its beauty and all of that, and infuse it with our energy. And we get to double our treatment rooms. I have beautiful office space upstairs as I spend more time coaching and teaching, where I'm able to do that. My staff has a much better, much more, they get the best space in the house, by the way, and I really believe that that's the way it should be. My staff lounge is beautiful, full of windows, like it's gorgeous. And so again, it's of course from an entrepreneurial side, owning versus renting, investing in commercial real estate. But again, it's the next level and version of the business to expand the space, expand the treatment rooms, expand what I offer my employees, and also to expand on the space, both energetically and physically, that I give my coaching and teaching, because that's really where I see a lot of my future growth happening.
Perfect lead in, because that I do want to hear about. So you grew this successful aesthetic practice and really developed as an entrepreneur, a leader, a business person. And then now you're teaching, coaching, course development. Like, tell me the next evolution and about that piece of your business.
Yeah, so I have been really fortunate to be able to teach sort of like the how do I want to phrase this, the nuts and bolts of things for the past couple of years. And especially I have an interest in energy-based devices as well. I study them a lot, and so I've been giving quite a few lectures and workshops nationally. And soon to be internationally, on some of the technology. We were also part of a clinical trial for an FDA approval of a new device. So I have spent some time doing that, and I tremendously enjoy it. I feel so alive when I get to connect with people. I feel so alive when I get to talk to them. I mean, you and I have talked about that this place of like coaching and teaching, it's like that feels most authentically me. So it's amazing that I get to combine my passion of aesthetics with my passion for teaching. So I have, spent some time teaching on energy-based devices. And then as part of the Aesthetic Doctor, I have a podcast that you have been on. So check out Lil's episode. It's fantastic. And it really is this idea of how to have your most beautiful life from the inside out and outside in. So we combine some really fact-based knowledge of aesthetics and aesthetic procedures with really coaching-based and wellness-based topics, which I think is fabulous. And again, it started out really with me wanting to give people information on aesthetics and really have them get that stuff that I wish everybody would get before they considered a procedure. And because I'm about so much more than that, and that is really just the outside in part, it has really expanded to blossom into, I think, a healthy mix of aesthetic topics and sort of how to live your best life, which is, I think, the topic that you talked on, and things like that, steps to increase confidence, check it out. Right. But then, what I'm doing and coaching very successfully is also to really help other business owners have the business of their dreams. And the reason I started doing that is because when I started, really, I was doing it very much against the grain. A lot of what you learn in aesthetics, and I know you have a past in aesthetics, it's very like industry based, right? So there's so much like commercial conflict in there. And so many people do. I mean, the advice I was given was like, it's never going to work if you don't start with $1 million loan. And I was like, well, I can't take out $1 million loan right now. Like, right. And I was like, well, I'm still going to make this work just my way, and I think there is a path, and I think there is a way to build whatever business you want that fits your dreams, your visions, your lifestyle, your budget. I mean, of course, like it doesn't mean I've never had, until this building, I've never had to take out a loan for my business. And I think there's a way to grow a business sustainable. Of course, some people might take out loans or not, but to really do it in alignment with your own vision. Sort of like, I think you talk a lot about, there's that track that we all think we're supposed to be on, that society teaches us. I think in aesthetics, new business owner get taught that too, because of course the aesthetic device industry has this huge thing of like, yeah, you need to buy all the devices and you need to take out this $1 million loan and you need to do this, that, and the other. And there's really a different way, and not everybody wants that type of business, right? So I have loved coaching other entrepreneurs and really seeing them evolve and seeing their mindset evolve and having them step into the entrepreneur roles, just such as you're an entrepreneur. It's something we don't really get taught anywhere in medicine. And so many of us have yuck about money. And you can't run a business if you can't pay your bills. Like that's just a thing about it. We're all providing a service, and for my business to thrive, like it has to be profitable, and it should be profitable. It's like you're coaching, like you should get paid for it. Like you do an amazing job, you change lives, you've changed minds. So yeah, that's just the end of it, right? So I do some business coaching. I'm actually probably going to relaunch a group of business coaching in January, just because the more I coach people privately and the more people I meet, is even though, people like love one-on-one coaching, there is in business, there is this like need for a little bit of structure. And people, there's the same themes of questions I have. So I do think that it would be really, really valuable to have a group for existing business owners to really spend like a quarter and break down every aspect of their business, to look at their pricing, to look at their employee concerns, to look at their social media, to look at their whatever, and really in-depth dive into all of those themes for the week, and then live coach on it. So that's probably going to be my next thing, and hopefully to have that roll into a membership so people really get continued support. Because if you want to stay in business, stuff is going to come up, mind drama is going to come up, complications are going to come up, employee drama is going to come up, like financial scarcity thoughts are going to come up. So I think that's sort of my business part of the business coaching part of my vision. And you and I have talked about that. Ultimately, what I really, really, I think is my soul's work is to help women find or fall in love with their lives like I'm in love with mine, and really to have them say that, like, yes, I love my life. Yes. And I feel like I freaking get to have it all. So I love the concept of having it all, because I feel like I get to have it all. Like, so many times I'm like, damn, I just get to have it all. And I think it's really important for us to talk about that, because like we talked about it, getting to have it all does not mean doing it all. Actually, it's the complete opposite.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, because I'm going to confess, even I, who, I coach people to have a life they love and all that stuff too. That phrase, like having it all, the first thing that comes up for me, it's like a trigger. And I think I confuse, my brain, the automatic thought behind having it all is some version of doing it all.
You know what? When I think of doing it all, it's like, no, run away. I actually do very little things I don't want to do. And I think that, because
I do know that.
For full disclosure, Lil has been my coach for years, and she has helped me craft this amazing life. And I actually think that, when I think about having it all, it is absolutely not doing it all. It's actually doing very little of the things you don't want to do. So having it all, to me, number one, I think, is really to spend so much time thinking about what it is that you really want, and to be crystal clear on what you want, because those are the things you're going to get. And then to really sort of delete everything that's not in your zone of dreams and your zone of vision, or whatever zone you want to call that, like sweet spot zone. It's to do very little outside of the things you actually want to do, because first of all, like we said, doing it all sounds awful. But having it all sounds delicious, because having it all really says, in this season of life, what is most important to me? And I can have all those things. And the way to have all those things is to like I think you use the word pruning, is to sort of cut away all that BS that we don't really want to do. Right. Because they don't define us as, who we want to be. Like I full disclosure, like my kid eats school lunch, because like, to me, packing a lunch is not part of like having it all. Like, right. Like, I don't do the bake sales. I donate money. Like, I don't, like, again, because for me, that is not the definition of being a good mom. Like, the definition of being a good mom is like spending the day to day with my 3-year-old, and then spending my evening with my kid at the book fair. Like, those are the moments that I'm like, that for me is being a good mom, and that's the mom that I want to be. So it's really a lot of, or the same at work. Like, I think physicians, especially those that are in hospital and academics, we get bombarded with so many requests for things, and we get pulled in all these directions. And to be really clear in your authentic self of who you want to be. And then it's so easy to just have this shield of like decision point of like, does this serve my vision? No. Okay, then it's a no. Like, there isn't even a second question about that.
I love it. And I do want our listeners to hear, if you're willing to share, besides not doing the bake sale, which I don't do either, like some of the things, like real examples, some of the things that you've pruned over the years to get to this point where I mean, really, you're doing the things you want to do every day.
Yes. And I think that's really what it is. It's to free up your time and to set up your time and to schedule it in a way that those things that are really important to you get scheduled first. Like, I love my Pilates and yoga. So those things are on my schedule, like coaching,
Right.
twice a month is on my schedule. So again, so I think looking back at it, the first thing I did when I went to my first like physician wellness retreat, I literally came home and I resigned from a whole bunch of hospital responsibilities.
Oh, nice. I actually did not know. I mean, I knew you pruned, but I didn't know it was right after one retreat, like a big decision point.
Well, I mean, I think it was really at the time, it did not feel like a big decision. I think it was just for the first time that idea that we get asked to do things and we kind of do them out of the guilt or still that we've got to, that people pleasing or that we have
Right.
to be a good girl and like,
Mhm.
and I was like, I freaking hate this committee. And this committee is like on my only day off and and things
No.
like that. I was like on 3 or 4 committees that didn't serve me at all, like
Right.
right that I got nominated for, and I was like, oh, that is so kind, and I did it and I was like, this is unpaid work, like
Right.
I'm an ER doctor, so that might be my only day off while you guys are all on like your salary and you're here and you want to make this last 3 hours so you don't have to go back to your admin office, like, right? Versus
Right.
I'm here my day off. And so I think my first thing was to really, in the hospital world. And since then, a big one was to kind of withdraw from clinical research. I
Mhm.
was doing a lot of big trials and, again, there was just a lot of things that I think about those contracts that wasn't very empowering to me. And again, where the institution was not being very supportive. So a big one was to withdraw from clinical research, other than, the trials I now do in my office or that I might be asked to do, but I was running a lot of really big trials.
Right.
And then, now I'm part-time. Also, yay, that was a big one. I'm part-time. I work 2 weekends a month, which again might not feel like, and the thing about having it all that I really want to say is that you're having it all does not look like anybody's having it all. Like
Right.
I work weekend nights, 2 weekends a month, which for a lot of people might be like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? But I'm like, you know what? Weekend nights actually work for me because
Mhm.
then I have the whole week to like hang out with my kids, be
Yep.
there after work, kind of either do my med spa or coach on those weekday things, and I don't really actually do it at night unless I really make that decision that I want to, because I do spend, 2 weekends a month at the hospital. But again, that works for me. And that was a very conscious decision that I was going to set my schedule that way. So I work part-time and we've talked about like outsourcing everything. I mean,
Yes.
like, again,
Tell
I,
us.
I,
Tell
I
us what
don't
you
care if
outsource.
people judge me or not. Because again, it's like, it's just like all societal BS, right? And I hope I can say
Oh,
BS on your podcast.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, I
it's, like of course, a lot of us probably have house cleaners, right? But I have mine come an extra day and she like folds and puts away all my laundry because otherwise I was having like these laundry piles of clean unfolded laundry guilt. I don't mind washing it and I don't like it sitting there dirty, but
right.
so she then like folds it and puts it away. If I need things returned, she'll return them. Like she'll really do whatever I asked her to. I have somebody else who of course cleans my car and like takes my car for oil changes and things like that, because again, like who has time to sit at the dealership for a couple hours? I don't want to spend, I
Oh my
hate the
gosh.
dealership. Like an oil change I feel like is on the top whatever list of things that I don't want to do.
It's so funny you say that. I actually thought of you yesterday because I remembered as I was sitting in the car place to get a tire repaired, and it was supposed to be, 5 minutes, took forever. And I was
It
like,
never is.
sure, Jude has a person to do this. I need to talk to her about that.
Yes, I mean, and again, like, I mean, Jesus, college students or people that like, are maybe underemployed or can't have full-time employment for whatever reason or don't want it, like, oh my God, like the fact that somebody picks up my car and deals with all of that and I just hand them my credit card and then Venmo them some money is like magic, because again, think about your day yesterday, like those 4 hours, like, or whatever it took, like 3 hours, you could have taken a walk, you could have had a relaxing cup of tea, you could have met a friend, you could have done dance, which I know you love to do.
Right.
And instead,
right now, in the defense of the episode, I was like, if this takes longer than they say, I'm going to bring my Kindle. So I actually did enjoy a quiet.
See, this is the second thing, is you made it better.
I made it better.
You either bag it, you bartered, or you make it better. But again, the car plays, again, it's just like, it smells like stale cigarette smoke, because there's always like smokers that smoke outside in mine. So I'm just like not all about it. And then, the same thing as like, I get my groceries delivered as often as I can, just like everyday things that, I don't want to do, like just really don't want to do. Again, when we look at the flip side of it, like, you are actually employing other people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's so many people, especially in this economy, that are stay at home that would love to do something for a couple hours while their kids are at school or this, that, and the other. And I joyfully ask people to do this for me.
Nice. I love it. I was actually thinking about this on the way here. Are there any things that you particularly choose to do that, other people outsource? Because just like you said, like, your having it all looks different than my having it all. And I was thinking about the example I was thinking about for me. I was driving at home thinking about this podcast interview. I was thinking, one of the things that I do that I could outsource, and I do a little bit just out of necessity, but I really love carting my kids to activities.
That is so funny that you say that, because I think the one thing, so first of all, I really outsource anything I consider outsourcing, but I do love picking up my kids.
I do, especially, I'm going to say, especially my older son.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have his driver's license soon. And I swear, like all the time, and like, I feel like it's not slipping away. I mean, I'm really making the most of it, but I can see him. I mean, he's so close to being like another big step independent for me. And so I love to cart him around, and it gives us like 10 minutes in the car, just the two of us.
And I want to, though, venture, which I know is obvious for you, but it might not be for the listener. It's not for you about like really that you're taking him to activity you want to be. It's because you've declared that quality time.
Right.
And it's your way you feel like you're showing up as the mother you want to be, is that you can have that conversation with your kid in the car, or that quiet together time, or I don't know what your car routine is.
Right.
But again, I think that is really important to say, is that the things that we keep are really because they make us feel a certain way. Like, I am not into cooking, but I could imagine that somebody might, for example, say, listen, I really want to grocery shop and cook, because I feel like by nourishing my family and by putting that care into what they eat, what lunch their kid gets, it's my way of showing up as the parent I want to be. So it's not my way of showing up as that parent, but I can totally see how, some people might, for example, find like that is their way. And I think that is something really to be honored. And again, to make a conscious decision about why you're doing it or why you're not doing it.
Right. That last point is so important. Many times, I mean, always we're choosing. We're always choosing what we're doing, whether we think we are or not. But the difference in the experience when you go to the grocery store, when you're choosing it because you want to do that and you want to have that be part of your thing, versus the story of like, oh, I have to do this, or even just that unconscious, like hurried experience through life. I mean, just that shift, same exact activity, but awareness and stepping into choosing, like that makes, to me, the whole difference in life.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's, again, and maybe having it all is not the right thing, but I think having it all, for me, that all is really all the things I care about in this season of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always about seasons of life, right? I mean, I have a kid in college. You have one that starts driving soon. Like, the seasons of life change.
Right.
And so in this season of life, my all is something very different, as it probably will be when all my kids are gone, or, they're teenagers, or, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think the clearer you can be about what it is that's important to you, really, I think it's the only way to really get to do it and get to have it, is to awaken your consciousness and investigate and dream and think. And sometimes it's also trial and error.
Yes.
You might sort of think that this idea of cooking a nourishing meal for your family sounds amazing, but you hate the grocery store. And then maybe you do what I do and have delivered a bunch of nourishing things, right, where we still get lots of fruits and veggies in, but it does not involve me driving my cart around Harris Teeter or whatever your grocery store of choice is.
Right. And someone else can pick the fruit, and it's okay if it's not the ripest.
Well, and that's another thing. I just came back from a couple of days at the Miraval, and I took myself on a self-vision retreat, which was actually fabulous and just such a soul nourishing thing. And when I came back, of course, at home, things maybe got done, maybe not. I don't know if homework was sent to school or not, but whatever. Everybody was good. And the funniest thing was this morning, as my house cleaner came and said, listen, there's only half a load of laundry from last week. And I was just like, oh, well, okay. So they made it a whole 6 days was half a load of laundry, but that's okay. I came home and maybe the kids wore the same thing the whole time. I don't know. But again, they got a shower, they got new jammies. Everybody survives, but she's normally well, normally there's 4 or 5 loads. And I'm just like, I don't know, but I'll run my stuff from my suitcase soon.
Don't know, but everybody's fine.
Yeah. And that is the perfect example of the I don't know. They might have worn the same clothes. They might not have. Who knows?
Right.
And it's okay. They all survived. I got to do my thing. And I'm so thankful that my kids were safe and kept and all of that thing.
Right.
And you just have to let go of that part.
Yes. Yes. Lowering expectations for perfect, even very good, physicians that is another key to happiness, is being able to let things go and take the fruit from the Instacart person, come back and they've worn the same thing for 4 days and it's fine. All those things, I think, are part of being able to have it all.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's about prioritizing the things that matter to us, right?
Right.
Because I think when people it's a whole different conversation about manuals and control and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So,
we'll leave that for another time.
I got to do the thing that was important to me. And the other thing is that my kids were happy and healthy, and that's all that matters.
Right. Okay, between now and January, when group starts again, tell me how folks can reach you, because I'm sure someone listening to this podcast is a fledgling physician entrepreneur or further in their journey. I mean, you help folks at multiple stages.
Yeah, I help. I mean, and I think that is really the fun about one-on-one coaching, right? Is that you can help somebody at the beginning stages to people that are coaches themselves, right? It's so fun. And that's the same with entrepreneurs. I have some people that are thinking about getting started, and I have some people that run multiple 6-figure businesses. Really, with the thought about group, though, is I think the thought is that I really have seen themes emerge.
Mhm.
And, you know, like, again, you've been in business, and I think it is just nice to go into those themes in depth and really flush out things like, you know, what are your lead versus lag indicators? What should your ROI be? Like, how do you adjust your pricing structure? All the stuff that, you know, is really helpful to do no matter where you are in your business. But as far as the question goes now, I absolutely love coaching people one-on-one, on business, on life, on really anything. I do have a CME physician coaching as well. It does not mean we only have to talk about everything my PDF talks about. It's just to get it approved. Okay, people? And it will help your work-life balance, even if, you know, it doesn't, in a way that your hospital administrator that approves your CME might not ever imagine. Okay.
Nice. Yes.
So yes, I have a website,
Okay. Tell us, where to find you
theaestheticdoctor.com,
for that help.
www.theaestheticdoctor.com. I am very active on Instagram at Dr. Borger, and that's doctor written out, and then Borger, Borger. I have my podcast, The Aesthetic Doctor, that you have been a guest on. And, you know, I'm really responsive, and I love mentoring people. I love hearing from people. I love connecting with people. So whether you're in the same space or not, I do love this idea to what the virtual world has given us in terms of connections.
Me too. Me too. I just met it's a little off topic, but not really. I just met someone, another coach who I have known virtually for 5 years. And we finally got to meet in person yesterday. And, you know, the connections are every bit as real. I mean, it's real. It's just, you know, we see each other. I mean, Zoom to me is like the greatest invention since sliced bread. It's such an opportunity to have real connection and relationships with people, on an unlimited geographic basis.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it is one of the best things to come out of pandemic, really, I think, is this acceptance of the geographic possibilities.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and for having me, and really for being that person in my life. Because honestly, people listening, Lil has now been my coach for what, 3+ years, something like that.
Like that.
And, you know, I obviously get to stand here and say, oh yeah, I love my life and I have it all, and I truly do. But so much of that is owed to you.
Oh my goodness.
Really, like, you know, I think together we have been on this like sacred and deep journey, and you coach with so much love that really, too, like, your listeners, I'm sure, already love you. But I really don't want this to be a plug for me. I think this is all 100% a plug for your magic, your presence, the gifts that you have as a coach. So, you know, I'm eternally grateful for what you've done with me in my life and who you've sort of helped me really, I think it's express. I don't want to say become, because I think we all are already that person. I think what a great
100%.
coach really does is really helps give you that trust and listens to your expression and already believes in your wholeness.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much. I received that wonderful. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
Well, I love you and thank you. And yeah, it's going to be fun to listen back to this and have it. And, you know, hopefully your listeners get something out of it too.
Oh, I think so. There's so much here. And then we have so much more to talk about. I actually would love to have you back and talk specifically about pruning and the research stuff, because that's really hard for a lot of people.
Yes. I think that would be fabulous. Like we could
Yes.
really get focused. I mean, I know today
Right.
we just chatted and all that, but we
Right.
could focus or even do like a joint kind of like plan for how to really, because you're right. I think saying no is one of those really key things to that life that, you know,
Right.
love the life that you have or have that life that you want, is that it's not about adding stuff so many times. It's about subtracting.
Right. So we will get in the weeds on that next time, because I think that will also be really helpful to our listeners.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you so much. I'll see
Well,
you.
bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you like this episode, you're going to love working with me directly. Sign up for email updates from me in the show notes. I'll send you a fun email every week called Friday Favorites. Everyone loves it. Or if you're ready to get started creating your rich and interesting life, book a free consultation with me to explore working together one-on-one. I can't wait to meet you. You'll find these links and other resources in the show notes. See you next week.